So 2019, that's when you started the male support group, right?
Late 2019, early 2020. I always get those months, but it's somewhere between that period.
And so talk to us about toxic masculinity, because I feel like it's something I don't think people talk about enough. You know what I mean? Or people brush it off. You know, as kids, I feel like we're conditioned as boys, like to not be allowed to really express our emotions, communicate effectively. And then like you see it in our relationships with women saying he won't talk to me, he's closed off, like, you know what I mean? Like it's like, you know, with girls, they're like taught it's you're able to cry, right? You know, and that releases a different form of emotion, like it releases a different feeling. Like for us men, it's like we express it through anger, through violent tendencies, and the way that you express that, it doesn't provide the same relief.
For sure, 100%. You don't get the same outcome.
Yeah.
Right. So what I realized for toxic masculinity is really this idea that we have to become masculine in a certain way, and that defines us as a man, right? So part of what you just said was like, we're not taught we can't cry. Even deeper than that, or just equally important to that, we're taught we can't communicate our issues. You know what I'm saying? The toxic masculinity don't even leave room for you to have an honest human conversation with somebody that you have a disagreement with. We're not taught to communicate out of, through our problems. We're taught to just take them head on, right? So for me, I was realizing what brought me into this world and made me put on my JO name, and was this mask I had to put on as a means to survive. That mask is like, and it's funny because I use this in my curriculum early on. Remember the movie The Mask?
Mm-hmm.
Remember when he put on the mask? What did he become? He became bravado. He became very like confident. He became this other version of himself that wasn't his true version. And then ultimately at the end of the movie, he was like a criminal. Remember that? Right. So like the mask symbolically in that movie was just something that wasn't natural to someone, right? Is you had to put this thing on and become something else. So looking at it like that, I had to figure out a way to teach the kids there's this mask that you might be working on right now that you just don't know, and be conscientious of that mask, right? Tap into who you really are, communicate with somebody. It's okay to have a moment and be vulnerable. Like, you know what I'm saying? Toxic masculinity is like, it doesn't leave room for that. It's like it has this expectations of like, that's based on being tough, notions of what tough is, or violent, right? Or how you manage women, for example, you objectifying, right? Like that hyper masculinity is so toxic to the relationships, right? That's why it's toxic masculinity, because it's toxic to the relationships that really make you human. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's interesting, man. It's like it's a level of programming and conditioning in our society, you know, that causes a lot of issues. Like you were just saying, um, find out like who you really are. I always say like once you really know who you are, it makes life so much easier, especially if you're willing to accept who you are and just live in your truth. You know, because like I feel like so many of us are fighting that. So many of us are angry, you know, because we're not able to do that.
Facts. 100%.
Do you ever struggle with who you were and how you were conditioned to be? Like when you're growing up in the hood, you're taught to react within like 5 seconds. You know what I mean? Like not to like really think and handle a situation like through the communication. Like, do you find sometimes like if you choose to communicate instead of feeding into that ego, that it kind of like messes with you?
Nah, I think I spent a lot of time on like nurturing myself and like learning who I really am to the point that I'm confident. You know what I'm saying? In my work, like what gives me my competitive advantage as somebody who did time and is doing his work, trying to build community and movement, is that I'm true to myself now. That's I'm confident because of that. I mean, like I don't have issues with certain things that the typical man may have issues with. So I spent a lot of time in prison, and then even in my post-release, post my breakdown, really analyzing and looking internally to the point where certain things is no issue, you know? we all deal with battles still. Ain't none of us perfect, right? Still have maybe some ego things I gotta work around, some trauma triggers I still gotta think about. That's a fact. I'm human. But for the most part, who I am, I've spent a lot of time working on answering that question. And there's sometimes I'm sitting here trying to figure certain things out still, but I'm open to that vulnerability. I'm open to that space of not knowing, right? But I'm working on trying to find out. So I kind of been graced, blessed in that way where, I'm at a certain level of awareness. I'm tapping into a different frequency of, just thinking and being that, you know what I mean? I don't deal with the typical battles.
That's beautiful, man, because I think that, we need to normalize that more, where it's like, it's not just like, oh, you're a man if you react in a violent way, but no, you're a man if you can handle a situation and remain calm, and you know what I'm saying, like not do these things that quote unquote feed your ego, like to show dominance.
Facts. Facts.
And I think that that's something that gets glamorized too much through the media and just society in general.
100%.
So you end up going to therapy, right? What did therapy teach you?
Well, I went to therapy twice. At that time, I say this often too, it kind of taught me to say yes to mental health and no to education, right? Like it was okay for you to say to that pressure that I was talking about, that I felt, where I was the first formerly incarcerated, all that, like that was all perceived. It taught me you're literally not dealing with facts. You're dealing with your own perception of reality, and that's putting this unhealthy pressure on you. And when you take that perception away, you can make better choices. So it taught me that when you challenge your lens and you remove your lens for a second. It's like putting on a pair of colorful glasses. You see red, you move it out the way, it's no longer red. And now you can make a better choice because you no longer have those lenses on. Literally is what it taught me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because there's a stigma about therapy and mental health, especially in the inner cities and minority communities, right? Like we often practice religion and prayer in place of getting professional help. But in recent years, it's getting kind of like more popularized for people say mental health, mental health.
Yeah, that's a fact. I think, and rightfully so, right? Like the system has designed these programs and types of services that has harmed our people. You know what I'm saying? Therapy has not always worked out for our people. And then also, when I talk to kids now, they like, I'm not trying to see no therapist. They ask me stupid questions, right? Like the antiquated traditional styles of social work or therapy has not been effective for our people. And that's all they know. We need to introduce them a new non-traditional form of therapy so they can understand therapy is not just what that is, right? So I understand when people have a resistance towards therapy because based on what they only know. And it's true. It's not, the traditional styles and system has been harmful more than actually good.
Mm-hmm.